Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to another fantastic episode of Record Breakers, your music podcast of note, where a group of friends gather together to share music with each other, an album at a time. It's like a little book club for music. It's a fun time had by all. I'm Petey Rave, and today is the greatest day I've ever known. Every day is the greatest day I've ever known. Kind of. No, not really. I shouldn't lie to y'all. Here with me is my team, my squad, my quadruplet dream. I guess, I don't know. Or the Siamese doesn't actually technically have anything to do with twins or anything. We've got the quorum. We've got David.
If Paula Abdul married Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, would she be named Paula Abdul-Jabbar?
Mm-hmm. We've got Brett.
Well, then that makes me wonder, like, DJ Scat Cat, like, I feel so bad for you. Like, you can't live up, even though you're a cartoon dancing cat, you cannot live up to Kareem.
And we've got Matt.
I agree.
It's from before you were born, literally. I
Kids
do not
ask,
blame
well,
you. It's from a
when
music
has
video
that stopped
starring.
me before?
So
How many?
Buddy,
Yeah.
ask your parents.
But before
Or ask your friends in their 30s.
I will say, I guess it's a cultural thing. But growing up, I never got the I think it was at the when we were kids. It was the if Ivana Trump married somebody and then somebody divorced and then somebody else, was Ivana Trump Diamond something else darling. I never got that joke. Because I never had in my life the idea that you added the last names after each marriage. I just figured you were that person, and then you went back to your old last name, and then you went back to a new one. It would just be the most recent one. It was weird to me.
Yeah.
I never knew that idea of adding the last names up until I was reminded of it when I watched the OC. I was like, it was never a thing. My mom went back to just her maiden name. It's
Paula Abdul-Jabbar.
Exactly.
Think about it.
But that being said,
DJ Scat Cat, look him up.
yes, we're gonna talk about a different '90s thing, or different. Was that '90s or '80s? It was 80s.
Like 89, 90. 89, 90.
Yeah.
Somewhere
around
around
that
that
time.
It was a bridging point. We're gonna talk about a different album from a long time ago. And the album is being provided by Brett. Brett, what do you have for us today?
I brought the Smashing Pumpkins, but I brought the not the one I listened to the most, but the one that I wanted to give to you guys the most. And that was a cassette tape that I bought roughly in 1995. This is 1993's Siamese Dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting album. David, what were your expectations coming into this album?
My expectations coming into this album was an album that I was vaguely familiar with from an act that I was vaguely familiar with. Some guitars that aren't normally as heavy as I usually enjoy, and some interesting, sorry, Petey, often misery-filled lyrics from a guy that ended up being a wrestling promoter after he became a musician.
Yeah. Multiple-time wrestling promoter and wrestling businessman. Matt, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Really none. I'd never listened to Smashing Pumpkins. I had heard of them, and I kind of had them mentally categorized as, oh yeah, they play one of those subgenres of rock that I don't enjoy. So I never really bothered to listen to it, but I also never tested whether or not that was totally accurate.
Yeah, so we'll look forward to finding out how that worked out. Yeah, I'm familiar with Smashing Pumpkins. I've sung 3 of these songs of this album in karaoke multiple times. This album, I don't know how many times I've listened to this whole album front to back, but I've listened to several of these songs, more than just even the hits. And it's an album. I'm aware of the sound. This is obviously a similar but a different conceptually album than the big double album. But it is a sound.
And it's not the same as grunge of contemporaries of the time either.
Yeah.
I mean, it never really was.
Yeah, it never really was. Well, and which I think that's the funny thing about a lot of the grunge bands that lasted is you could say that about several of the bands that actually held up, which is that they weren't really the typical grunge, that they had something else to go on, which kind of says a lot. But in particular, Smashing Pumpkins. But yeah, Brett, how would you describe this album musically?
I mean, I'm going to speak to what I know the most about this album, and it's like the what it did that made it a big deal, and something that to this day I still am shocked at how much people try to emulate some of the things on this album. There's like this album hangs out right on an edge, like it sits like the guitars and like pretty much a lot of things. When it gets dirty, it's on the edge of almost being complete noise. It rides that edge the entire time, like up to the point where most of the dirty tone, which is something that I've had to help people try and track down, is it's mostly from a certain late 70s effect pedal run into a Marshall JCM 800 that has KT88s in the power tubes instead of EL34. Not really grunge stuff that you're thinking here. The pedal was an Electro Harmonix Big Muff Pi V4, which was a cheaper to manufacture version of the classic fuzz pedal, where they wanted to make it cheaper. So they used op amps instead of transistors, and it has 3 gain stages instead of 4, which makes it sound like crap. Kinda. It was a trash pedal. And they found that if you put this trash pedal into the low input of a JCM 800, you could get like this almost square wave, like, and these are things I have done myself, not with a big muff like that, but I have done some of this, and it is weird what you do when you're like right there on the edge of it, turning straight up to noise. And they did that really well on this. Those pedals now that used to be called trash are now like $400. Yeah. Which is stupid, because there's not a whole lot. Trash. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm not.
No.
I was.
It's raw, fellas. It's raw.
I mean, I can get down with changing to KT88s from EL34s, and I can say using a fuzz pedal, but this was definitely, they were doing something that sound is very, very. On top of that, they overdubbed the crap out of this. And that was like the main tone. Along with that, they used a couple other fun things, like for all the solos, when that fuzz noise wasn't enough, well, let's just throw a distortion, MXR distortion 2 on the end of it to make it even more noisy. And then they also did some stuff when it wasn't dirty, using some really neat phase stuff. One pedal that they used is a Neutron biphase that, when you put 2 phase pedals together, sometimes you can do some pretty neat things. They also used a thing that I don't know that we've talked about before. They used an EBow on this album, which is an electromagnet that you hang over the strings to sound like it's a bow going across the strings, which is a thing I've seen. Like I sold one. I never played with one. I thought they were like kind of okay, but I never thought what you would do with them. And then like hearing the sound, I was like, oh yeah, that's what you would do. Yeah. But the overdubbing is like a lot of the wall of sound. It does. Like I watched a video where Billy Corgan explained some of this. You lose a lot of the high end with that from the noise that you're getting from the layered distorted stuff. So you don't hear the cymbals very well on this. But man, there's some toms that get worked in this album. Yeah. And the bass hangs out in places that listening to it not on a cassette tape, I was really drawn to the way that the low end was done on this album. For something that is of 1993, they were hitting like, near nu metal frequencies at some points, which was kind of odd. But there's a lot of things going on here. And also there's a guy that sings nasally and kind of high pitched. Yeah. I've never brought one of those before.
Yeah. I was like, if you bring up the 70s, like pedal But, like, it's funny how much of the early '90s was super '70s. Like,
Oh yeah,
like
that
a
stuff
lot
was
of-
cheap. That was the thing. Like if you were strung out, you could still afford a
Literally
you know,
all of Temple of the Dog, which we
yeah,
did a few
which
weeks ago.
is which is
Yeah.
brought over from the fact that they were basically Mother Love Bone, which was a 70s.
70s as fuck.
Yeah.
And Brett, you mentioned the low end on a lot of this album, and you really hear that on a lot of the heavier tracks. And the comparison you made to almost new metal levels of frequency, I really heard that on the opener, which was a single, and it has that same appeal that that particular subgenre had during its time. So you definitely hear a lot of that boom.
Ooh.
It's
all over.
extremely saturated. Like
Yeah.
the amount, like it's there's so like when you layer on the layers and layers and layers of the same tone, like it like I could not make that happen even if I had all that gear without doing it. It's very weird how they produce this, and to think that they were doing this on tape back then, like it's-
Yeah. David, how would you describe this album musically?
I would describe this album musically as well above average alternative rock. I think that the Smashing Pumpkins, for their time, were definitely of the elite of this genre and of this style of rock music, which I didn't particularly love, but I recognize that these guys were the higher end of it. The actual composition of the songs were all pretty concise for the most part. I think Billy Corgan as a vocalist is not so much of an acquired taste as some people might think. I actually think as a vocalist, he's pretty enjoyable generally overall. I've never found him as a singer to be overly grating or unlistenable like a lot of things that came out of rock singers in the last 20, 30 years. And
I did. I got to the point where like, but then I listened to Geddy Lee all the time, so like,
and I
that's-
love Geddy Lee. I absolutely
so
love
I have no
So,
no consistency.
So I think that as a singer, he was always unique, but in a very good way. And on top of the Smashing Pumpkins being a above average band of the time, I think this entire album is a pretty solid package, and it is really good headphone candy for
Yeah.
all of the things that Brett mentioned that I couldn't dare to try and repeat.
Yeah. I was listening to Brett say those things, and I was Kel in the Good Burger movie going, I know some of these words.
There's a video where like Billy Corgan sits down and like shows you like how he did it, like on a
Yeah.
Marshall with and he's like, so you turn this knob until you start, and then you turn it back a little bit. You find your sub frequency, and then you rock and roll. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've never had anybody explain
Okay.
that better than the man. I was
Yeah.
shocked I was able to find that. So
Yeah.
if you want to do more
Source of the
homework,
man himself.
yeah,
do some more due diligence and due diligence for y'all to do. Matt, how would you describe this album musically? I'm curious.
2 words immediately came to mind: loudness wars. That said, I was listening to the remastered version as far as I know, because that was the only version I could find. The rhythm guitar for a lot of this album was this almost pitchless drone, is the best way I can describe it. I had to pause about 3 or 4 songs in, because no matter how far down I turned down, I just kept getting ear fatigue. 5 tracks, excuse me. After that, it kind of lightened up a little bit, and it had a lot more enjoyable stuff for me than the first bit. But yeah, really, really distorted guitars, and some interestingly placed string accompaniments.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a fun, cool, raw, like majestic, odd, angsty, like very 90s, very like big rock. It is some of the parts of what was early 90s like grunge scene stuff, which was a lot of it was like that 70s rebel stuff and like the big big moments, but like the angsty stuff. I will say like musically, I remember Smashing Pumpkins. The other thing I remember is it's the only time I'm bringing up the Gilmore Girls again. It's the only time Amy Palladino managed to write two differing opinions on a music artist, other than I have an opinion or I've never heard of them. It's that classic writer's crutch of like everybody has the same taste in music, or it has never heard of the band, which is Amy Palladino had the issue where. But Smashing Pumpkins, I remember the one conversation where two people had differing opinions, and it was literally just these two lines of Lane Kim telling Rory, is like, well, and you don't like Smashing Pumpkins, and I do. It's like, and Rory going, well, they're not my kind of angst. It's like, like
well, I would think
They were
that
not my kind of
I have not liked the Smashing Pumpkins a whole lot, but I've also liked the Smashing Pumpkins, and they are definitely one of those bands that went places and became a thing.
Yeah.
And I was not into that thing, but let me tell you, elementary school me, super into this.
But yeah, I remember. Just one of those things that I remember from like
They were not my flavor of angst.
Yeah. But and then Lane Kim answers back with, well, you're what was it? Your foretaste or something. I don't remember the line, but like it was an interesting moment. But yeah, this album is fun to listen to, and it's I know the songs, and I get to just jam out, especially to the ones that I've sung terribly.
Which ones did you sing, Edie? Come on.
I'll reveal the songs. It's not that much of a surprise, but I'll reveal the songs that I've sung in karaoke once. Now that we get into the segment where we talk about the key tracks, Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
The song that I think of when I think of this album is Cherub Rock. Like first and foremost, because that is the song that has the tone, and it also has the guitar solo that almost sounds like whenever Hendrix would hit the octave pedal. And like I've going back to this, hearing it with better speakers and a better ear for this, I was a little bit more impressed with how much of that tone is a thing in this album. And that song really lays it out. Because I mean, when I think of like later albums, Bullet with Butterfly, with like that tone, like it came from someplace, and they were working on it like in a lot of places. Here you can hear a lot of like stuff that came later in this album. Today is the second song I think of when I think of this album, because it's radio friendly, and it's probably still gets played heavily today, but it had a catchiness and a friendly length. But like when you start, when you get to get about to the middle of the album, towards the end, you start getting into the other things about the band that I found more interesting, were like the older rock and psychedelic influences, like Geek USA. You've got this groove first headbanger that strays way outside of the grunge genre. Like it almost sounds like it should be like it reminded me almost of thrash, almost like a White Zombie level of like the drums, the
I wrote
rhythm guitar
for Geek USA. I wrote Soundgarden.
But like then you get 2 minutes in, and then there's the trippy psychedelic bit that lasts exactly 1 minute, and then it goes right back to the big guitars doing like I'm holding a note and like doing some boodle-deedle-doos and minor pentatonic stuff, which was neat. But like there's definitely more on this album than just like the straight up what you think of or what you heard on the radio. There are like, he was trying some stuff, old Billy, and like not all of it hit, but like some of this stuff, it makes me wonder like this is 93. Like what, this was really out there for that. And Geek USA, there are other songs I could go through on this that, like, stuff you hear on the radio to this day, and songs that Petey probably sang at karaoke. But like, you just pick any of the songs on the back half of the album. It's just fucking weird to think that that was considered grunge.
Yeah. David, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Silverfuck. To go on Brett's last point, the idea that this was grunge. No, it's not. And I kind of said that at the beginning. This really doesn't fit in with grunge at all, in my opinion. This song, Silverfuck, was a near 9-minute musical journey of almost ambient music that just went completely off the rails by the end. And it was not something you would expect from a rock band in 1993 just trying to make it big. Also, Geek USA. That one was a really energetic song that I would have not expected from the Smashing Pumpkins. It had a real force to it that I just did not expect. And lastly, the second track in between the two big radio singles, Quiet. That one felt like it really set the tone for the back half of the album, not necessarily being so easily accessible as one might expect.
Matt, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Hummer was kind of the first one where it was the second time I listened to it that I started to really dig on it a little bit. Just a good rhythm. I think overall, this will be a little bit of my conclusion as well, but the first 3 tracks did a lot to turn me off the rest of the album. But Hummer, going back to listen to it, I enjoyed. It had a good rhythm. Disarm, it had a string arrangement, and they did not make up for the singing.
Bells. Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. They had bells. But I can appreciate the creativity and wherewithal to do such a thing. And Luna, that's just a nice song to end on, which was, again, I don't know why certain music playing services feel the need to send you on a wild journey once you're done listening to the album. But the song after this, I don't remember who it was, but it was growling/screaming, and I was not having it. And fortunately, I'm like, this, please tell me this is Napster doing its Napster thing again. And yes, it was. Yeah. And I did not have to listen to that song for more than 10 seconds. Yeah. But back to the album we're talking about. Yeah, the Luna, I think, and Sweet. It is just all nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that I would really reveal. I would basically say that echo all the what everyone said about the tracks.
What songs did you sing, Petey?
Yeah,
You're not
so
getting away from
payoff.
But I was gonna. So the songs I would sing would be because I was here double checking with my brother's karaoke books because I couldn't find the one of the songs on iCrunes, and I found myself thinking, am I crazy? Is it not in karaoke? I'm pretty sure I've done it. I may have actually made it because there's actually a karaoke builder studio, so I've actually made it. Maybe using from a Rock Band instrumental, but. 3 songs that I know for sure I've done on multiple occasions would be Cherub Rock, Today, and Rocket, which would be kind of like the songs. I haven't done Disarm. Disarm was always somebody else's song. But
that's a vocal range that I've never touched in my entire life. So I applaud anyone who wants to sing up there.
Yeah.
And try to sing a song that has a, like, if you're doing a parody of, it's like Eddie Vedder. Like, everybody can do an Eddie Vedder, but nobody's good at doing it.
Everybody can do an imitation comedian doing an Eddie Vedder.
Yes.
Not a lot of people can actually do an Eddie Vedder. But who cares? It's fun. It's karaoke. Yeah. I've also been able to. I used to, and I don't know if I can work myself up. I used to be able to do the rage growl, just the cage, that like
for butterfly wings.
For butterfly wings, yeah.
Yeah,
That climactic.
yeah.
I'm just around in cage, that, but like that growl. I used to be able to do that in my 20s. I don't think I can do that anymore. I would do that for my other friend that did sing the song.
You got to do your ahs.
Yeah.
I bet Billy Corgan can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Some of that vocal stuff.
That's even money on that right there.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's bring it back around the horn. Talk about some conclusive thoughts. David, how would you conclude this album as a whole?
Better than I expected. I never dove too deeply into the Smashing Pumpkins, but like other things that Billy Corgan has done in his life as a businessman, I enjoyed it more than I expected to. Surprisingly good. There are some quality rock and roll tracks all over this. The sound of the album is unique, and I would call this a headphone album. This is a good headphone album. If you've got some really good earbuds or some really good headphones, I would give this a listen in those.
Yeah.
And I, again, go back to saying I've always appreciated Billy Corgan as a vocalist. And I think this is probably him at his best in that regard. And overall, for this time, I think this is a pretty strong rock album. And yeah, it was all right.
Yeah. I will say, unlike other things that Billy Corgan is I've been involved in, you don't have to skip any of it to avoid Jim Cornette. So moving on, Matt, what would be your conclusion at the end of the day?
Overall, I wasn't crazy about it. The first, I would say the first 3 songs really turned me off. If I listened to it again, if I had a cut that was just Hummer, skipped Rocket, and then Disarm to the end, I think I would feel a lot better about it. I mean, it's just it's not the kind of stuff I listen to, and as much as I try, I have yet to have it appeal to me. It can get grating after a while.
Yeah, I can understand if your ears of a certain sensibility, how it can be grating. I think it's it shares enough of a certain DNA that I can understand that. For me, I enjoyed the hell out of it. I enjoy the rawness, the epicness, the experimenting with like weird, like weird sounds that for like certain sound paintings that you want to kind of create with that stuff, and like remembering some of the sounds from that time. It's partially nostalgia, but I wouldn't like, I'm not one for like diving into nostalgia. But it is songs I enjoy listening to, songs I enjoy singing, and also as a whole, it also delves into some really cool deviations into other sounds, like was talked about later on the album, that is just cool to kind of like jam to. So I this is a really, really dope, really fantastic album. But yeah, Brett, last but not least, what would be your conclusion at the end of the day?
So like I picked up this on cassette about the time that I picked up a guitar. So a lot of this album, like I haven't listened to this album in probably 25 years. So listening to this is like is a fun little trip back, probably less than 25 years, more like 20 years. But like I didn't know how much of this album, like I realized there's probably a good chance that like my taste in a lot of the things that I do with my own music is colored by this and probably the Weezer Blue album, which also had a lot of very, very dirty dirt. But like I will still sit in a room with a JCM 800 and plug a fuzz pedal in and try and get that square wave to almost noise out and just be like, oh, this is cool. Like, so there's something to it. As for the singing, I will listen to an album 20 times and not be able to tell you what the lyrics are because I don't care. And so this was I never knew of this as angst music. I just thought of this as like groovy loud stuff that you can like, that isn't just a straight 4/4 headbanger. So I had a lot of fun going back to this and being somewhat, I'm kind of shocked for how much I've grown to dislike a lot of the Smashing Pumpkins music overall. Like it's kind of up its ass a little bit, and like it's somebody tried really, really hard to make their great work. And yeah, this is a highly reviewed album. This is probably one of the highest reviewed albums that we've had on in a long time. But that doesn't mean it's not kind of pretentious and up its ass. So like it's neat. It did some stuff.
And that's okay.
It's cool. I mean, it was the early 90s and they were doing something that wasn't Nirvana. And
that's great.
That's better than a lot of people could say. And this was so very much not lo-fi. There was some noise, but there was something here that my more mature palate was able to dig into. But again, it is, at the end of the day, it's a rock album from the early 90s by some people with some Marshalls and some time and some life problems that they could funnel into music. So it's one of those. It's not going to change your life probably, but like taking me back in time and putting my headphones on and playing some Super Nintendo to this. So I'm rocking that nostalgia.
Life, but it changed Brett's life.
I mean, it was there for my life. It changed my life as like not even as much as Weird Al did, but it changed my life. Bad Hair Day, the Presidents of the United States, and then somewhere below that, way down, there's the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
And it made being bald okay.
Hey,
Exactly.
We could all take some lessons from if it's gonna go, just
do it.
Make it work.
Who cares?
Do it.
Yes,
Who cares?
QT Marshall. Let's get to the main event of the evening. The moment we've all been waiting for, our haiku reviews. As we spell all our thoughts in poetic form. Let's get down to the nitty gritty. Haikumero numero uno. I'm gonna drive that bit to the ground. Let's go. Let's mix things up. Matt, what is your haiku?
Not too horrible. Had moments of enjoyment. Not my cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
Slap that on a sticker.
Throw
it on
the
put
cover.
it the Sam Goody. Like,
Yeah.
Not too
Right,
horrible. Matt Walton.
that's right.
Right there in the Harmony House, everybody.
Yeah, right there. Put the little sticker on top of the cellophane on top of the digipack. It's just like
Yeah, you gotta pull the gigantic piece of plastic out, and you're like,
Yeah. David, what is your haiku?
Better than I thought. Is it whiny alt rock? Yes. But the rock is strong.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he is.
Yeah. My haiku. Angsty 90s grunge. With some pomp and majesty and tons of talent. Yeah, and last but not least, Brett, what is your haiku?
Big sophomore attempt with with a true personal choice, 'twas a fun look back.
Mm-hmm.
That was an error, but I'm going to stick with it.
Yep.
Thank you. Autocorrect.
Live to tap.
I had this written out. I had these notes done so early. Early.
Yes.
But don't trust yourself.
Don't trust yourself.
Ever.
Yes. Yeah, those are our thoughts on the Smashing Pumpkins. The Smashing Pumpkins. Not any old Smashing Pumpkins. The Smashing Pumpkins. Siamese Dream. Which, of course, you can find on our Spotify playlists. Play Record Breakers the home game. Do your due diligence and your due diligence. Do your homework. Do your assigned listenings. Your assigned readings.
And get back to us, will you?
Yeah, tell us
know what to think.
Yes.
Yeah, tell us what your thoughts are between transistors and op amps on fuzz pedals from the 70s that you could probably build with $5 worth of parts.
Yes.
And germanium or silicon?
That's right. Sometimes you want it to change with the weather. Sometimes you don't.
Sometimes you feel like a nut. And sometimes you don't.
Or LEDs. You could do it. I mean, that's silicon as well, but
Yeah.
Is it?
I
don't
mean,
know.
it's
Sure.
Probably not, actually.
Sure.
you
But
would
yeah.
be the one that would know this out of
I
us.
know.
I do the stuff.
And
You
green
know
or
this
red.
stuff.
It's different
Matt is
voltage
at
drops
M.
for
Riddick
green or-
W. Brett is at Hibbity Bibbert, H to the I to the BITY, B to the
All right,
I to
so all right, on
Yeah. Show us at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers.
so
iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud. Like, share, subscribe.
Hey, quit trying to
All
take
things.
over.
yeah.
Max the Weasel. PD, take it home.
I
but
can
yeah,
spot
on
them
the
when I see it.
yes. On that Spotify playlist is going to be next week's record. It's going to be provided by Matt. Matt, what do you have for us in store? What do you have in store for us for next week?
I will be bringing the album by the venerable rock band from the 60s, Iron Butterfly, with their album Inagata de Vida.
Oh man.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yes.
There's going to be an organ solo that I'm going to get to listen to.
Ron Butterfly. Yes,
18
I'm
minutes.
so ready for some rock and
Iron,
roll.
Iron Butterfly. Ron Butterfly, have am excited for that. Hopefully you guys are as well. And that'll be next week.
No,
and
no.
this is-
My opinions will come next week, but
Yes.
I got to tell you.
I Ron Butterfly, you Ron Butterfly, we all Ron
Man.
Butterfly for I Ron Butterfly. That'll be next week, and this is this week. And you can of course find us all over the internet. David is at Call Me DJM. Brett is at Hibbity Bibbert, HIBBITYBIBBARD. Matt is at Emeritic W. I'm at PD Rave. The show's at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com is the email. Rebelly.net for this and other shows. Rebelly TV is the YouTube and the Twitch, as we're streaming these now live on Twitch. So you can come join, watch live, get ahead of the curve.
I swear to God, I will ban you.
We'll get there. Follow this, follow us there. We might even do other stuff as a group, like game streams or something. I don't know.
I'll be racing Mario
Gaming
Andretti on
games?
Sunday.
On
Don't play games on Twitch anymore.
Yeah, no. We're gonna be doing mukbangs. Yeah, just eating. Yeah, eating. It's just gonna be one of the streams is gonna be Brett eating multiple tenderloin sandwiches.
I had an idea earlier today.
I mean, it's
You do a watch
for the
party.
science.
We can do a watch party.
I think you have to be. Don't you have to be partner or something? God, I could never imagine being partner on Twitch. I can't even get to be affiliate, but this whole thing. But that's a whole other thing. Like, you can find us everywhere you find podcasts: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora. Wait,
Up in your Deezer.
not Pandora.
Pocket Cast.
Maybe Pandora.
Win
but,
it.
Stitcher, SoundCloud.
Live
RDO.
wire.
All
Or heck, I'll email it to you.
exactly.
Yes. I'll put it on a disc and mail it to you.
Or just
Honestly.
just come to the website and get the RSS feed yourself, and you can.
You have Prodigy?
Yeah. Just come to the website. We'll hand you the RSS feed, and we'll you can just do it what you would.
Do about 8 other RSS feeds myself.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, do like, share, subscribe, do all the things. Hit the bell, slap the walrus, spank the monkey. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.